This is Arts Alive. I'm Lynda Phillippi, and my guest today is Gil Reynolds. And Gil's been on before, but this time he's back to talk about fused glass. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be back again. This is kind of cool. It's kind of like one of those movies where you do the flashback and you keep going back, because we're doing reverse chronological.
I like it.
We started with my current sculptures, and now we're going back in glass and stuff.
Well, good. Let's talk about glass, because I think that I love it. I love fused glass.
Well, it's been quite the evolution. I actually started out in stained glass.
Okay.
I'd been an art student at the University of Oregon, and I was driving a school bus to pay for college. And I had two kids on the bus that were great musicians, and they needed a guitar player, so I got a student loan, bought a guitar and amplifier, auditioned for the band, got the band gig, but didn't have any money for school. So I dropped out of school to play music in a band, and then I found a stained glass shop that was teaching people how to do stained glass. This is in 1972, so I went to work for them as an apprentice, and I worked for a year doing stained glass, and then went back to college, this time in Monmouth, and was doing art classes, and had a teacher that let me do stained glass panels for my art projects.
Ooh.
And then I went on the road with a band for a year, and then came back and started doing stained glass full time. And a lot of the work I did was for the Street of Dreams. So I actually have a slide of one of my early pieces that I studied with a German artist, Ludwig Schaffrath, up at the Pilchuck School, north of Seattle.
Okay.
Dale Chihuly started that school.
Oh, okay.
And so Schaffrath had a very linear design, so more of a contemporary style. So the first image I brought is actually one of my stained glass panels that was a commission. There we go. This was for Battleground Washington.
Ooh.
So it's trying to deal with implied space, even though it's a flat panel, you somewhat get the illusion that it's dimensional.
You
Then
do.
the next image is a Street of Dreams commission. I actually would they'd have a Street of Dreams with 14 homes. I'd have glass in like 6 of them. This is a skylight in a master bathroom. So the next image shows the view. If you're laying in the bathtub and you're looking up at the window, you'll see the, go ahead and do the next slide, and we can see what it's like when you're in the tub and you're looking up. There it goes.
Go. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
So the little ripples in the pools, those are etched hydrofluoric acid, and the leaves that are floating on the water is like they're made out of sheet copper.
It's really beautiful. So did you just lay down in the bathtub to take that image?
Yes, I did. Matter of fact.
How fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next image is a piece I did for Colin Lamb and his wife, who have Lamb's Grocery. Oh. And I started getting into glass fusing in the early 80s, and I was fortunate that I was kind of a pioneer in the technique. If you go ahead and show, here's a copy of the book I wrote. This is the Fused Glass Handbook. I wrote this book, and go ahead and pull that image off. And I wrote this book in 1986, I think. It's basically, some people call it the Fused Glass Bible, that it's a really good introduction to all of the glass techniques. And we did 6 printings. Go ahead and pull that image off if you want. And
Okay.
it's a real good how-to. If you do all the projects in the books, you'll have a real good understanding of how to do fused glass. So it was a art form that was in its infancy, and I was lucky to be part of that group that kind of initiated and did all of the research.
Sure.
And it's not often you get to develop a whole new art form. And then later I used to do columns for there we go, there's the Fused Glass Handbook. I also did columns for Stained Glass News, and I put a bunch of those columns together in this Kiln Crafting book. So it's kind of a synopsis of a bunch of little columns I did for that.
So is fused glass then something that you can learn how to do by yourself just from a book? Or do you really need to be in a studio with somebody kind of showing you the tips?
Now all of the information's out there.
Okay.
So if you have a kiln, access to a kiln, and some fusible glass, the big trick is that the glass has to be compatible. When you melt 2 pieces of glass together, they have to be chemically matched, or one will contract more when it cools and crack apart. So there's all lines of fusible glass you can buy and not have to worry about that. In the early days, we had to test everything and develop our own.
You got a lot of shards.
A lot of shards. A lot of shards. You know the terminology.
A lot of mosaic tabletops, right?
Right, there you go.
So I have a question. Is it the same kind of kiln that you use for ceramics?
No.
Okay.
Good question. Ceramic kilns have the elements around the sides as you're heating the mass, and they can go to higher temperatures because the heat is leaving the elements and going up. In a glass fusing kiln, you want the elements in the lid, so you're heating the entire surface of the glass evenly because it expands when it heats. And if it expands unevenly, like in a ceramic kiln, the outside edges will expand and the glass will shatter. Having the elements in the lid causes it to heat evenly, and you can heat it up without breaking it.
And the whole thing closes up. It's not like a glass blowing where they stick it in and it's hot and they twist it around and then they bring it out and fiddle with it.
Correct.
Stick it back in. It's an actual oven.
It's an actual oven. It's a closed oven. Once you're above 1,000 degrees, you can open the oven, the kiln, and you can manipulate and shape and stuff, as long as you keep it above 1,000 degrees. But from 1,000 degrees down, the room temperature, that's when it's going through its cooling phase, and that's a little tricky. So I've been fortunate. I've been able to do a lot of commission work with the kiln-fired glass. The next image, if he's got one, number 5 is what I've got on my sheet. There we go. Ooh. This is a commission I did down in Albuquerque. It's for a Del Webb retirement center. So all of those, and this is an unusual piece because it was designed. I worked with an architect in Denver. I flew to Kansas City to use the large furnaces to produce the pieces, and then it was installed in Albuquerque.
Wow.
The next one's a local piece. This is in Rock of Ages out here outside McMinnville. And they originally wanted stained glass windows to cover these. They wanted a grape theme. And I said, no, you'll ruin your view. So I actually cast grapes out of glass and then did some forged metal work for the vines and then did some cast glass leaves for that piece there. So you still have the view, but you still have the idea of the glass.
So the bottom of that metal that's the view that we're actually seeing that's outside.
Yeah, you're seeing right through the outside.
Oh, okay, that's really pretty. Yeah, I like it.
So I try and do my commission work to relate to the environment. The good side of that, you get something that's very specific to the situation. The bad side is none of my work looks the same because it's all designed site-specific.
Well, that's art.
It's a what form? Yeah. For me, it's what works. In the next slide, you'll see a real difficult example. This is for a anesthesiologist's office. That's what they do. They hire out to do, hospitals and stuff. And so I was trying to find something that would relate to them. So this image is an isoflurane molecule that's been stylized because that's one of the anesthetics they use.
You're getting sleepy.
You're getting sleepy, exactly.
They give you that little, just count backwards.
All right, let's go to the next image. This is the Allison Hotel. This is the piece I did. It's about 20 feet wide. And I brought a sample. As we're doing the project, a lot of it is building samples, trying different things. So this is a piece of glass that I presented to the powers that be of my idea. Is I wanted to have some depth. The Allison has a whole thing about the glacier that melted 10,000 years ago and Lake Allison was formed. So I want to have a glacier type quality. In the next image you'll see here I did a wall inside my studio that duplicates the wall this would go on. Oh. So, and I replicated the lighting, and what I found is that the lighting, the shadows become as big a part of the design as the glasswork. So I was designing with shadows and dimension. It was part of the theme. So here's the next image. Go ahead. I did a mock-up out of cardboard and then did aluminum slats up there, and then those aluminum slats were actually painted and taken to the hotel. In the next slide, you can see here we are doing the installation, and you asked how we hang them. See those little chrome areas? Those are all little clips that the panels will attach onto. Okay. So it was quite the project. The next one is a detail. I framed it in cherry branches from a local orchard they took down to a lumber facility outside Grants Pass that does kiln-dried timber, and I had them kiln dry the cherry branches so they wouldn't split and peel.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
And they laughed at me. We're kiln drying twigs, Yeah, that's for an art project. Yeah. And then the texture, I love the different textures. This one here, I took a bed of sand and rolled a pattern in it and set the glass on there, and then the glass picks up that texture when it's heated to a soft point. This is for custom home up in Portland. The next one is a project I did over in Dubai. Same concept. This is the kiln. We've got a 12-foot long kiln. And
wow.
These panels are ended up being an inch thick. The next slide shows the finish. These are fins. We did 3,000 fins on the outside of this apartment building on Fan Island.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like they brought me over as a consultant to work out all the engineering details, and then I flew back to the U.S. And
how did they even find you?
the guy that runs the studio, I was teaching in Italy, and he was one of my students, the guy that runs the students.
How cool is that?
And he contacted me years later. Because I was fortunate because I was able to get in the ground floor of the fusing movement. I started teaching a lot of classes, and I've been able to teach classes all over the world, Australia, China, Japan, throughout the U.S. and Europe. And
that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
it's fun. I'm glad that phase is over. You know, it's been a great ride. I had a dream back when I was first getting into glass that if I worked in it for 25 years, then the dialogue with the material would become effortless. And I kind of okay, I'm just going to work with glass for 25 years. Well, it's been 50 years now, and I still work with the material.
Although, and has it become effortless?
Yeah, it's always a challenge. It's always because glass has that, when it's hot, it's fluid and sensuous and soft and manipulable, malleable. And then when it's cold, it's brittle and sharp and rigid, and it's that dance between the two. So it's just, you have to listen. If you start getting cocky and going, oh man, I've got this down, I'm so good, the glass goes, oh yeah, and it just cracks and breaks. You know, you just have to be humble and get into it, respect the material, and you get a dance.
I love that. Isn't it incredible to think that it started with you driving a school bus?
No,
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it was crazy times, times.
So, like right now, what are you working on?
So I just installed a metal sculpture at Grand Moraine tasting room outside Yamhill last week, and that was a project I've been working on for several months, and I'm working on a new CD with Steve Pinkston, the guy that did the theme song for this show.
Okay.
He's an incredible talent. In fact, I'm going to a production meeting when I get done here. So doing music, doing art, and trying to just stay out of trouble, you know.
Just rolling along, huh?
Just rolling along.
Wow. Now, do you do all commission, or do you show your work in galleries anywhere?
I'm not a gallery artist.
Okay.
No, it's pretty much site-specific commissions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I design to the environment, and I try and take in as many touch points as I can so there's a real connection. The one I did for Grand Moraine, we're talking about topography and how soil's important and the delicacy of the wines. And I've tried to capture all those in the sculpture so it has a real connection to the site.
Did you bring a picture of it?
I did not. You have to go out to the tasting room.
Well, there you go. Okay.
We'll have an excuse. We'll go out.
Let's go out there. We'll go tasting.
I'd love it.
That'd be so much fun. Well, I really appreciate you being here today, Gil. And as always, the time just seems to go so quickly. But so if somebody wants you, are you taking commissions now?
I am. GilReynolds.com is my website. You can see some of my work there. And that's probably the best way to get hold of me. Facebook, I'm also on Facebook.
I know you are, because I saw your post the other day. That was the music post.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anyway. Well, thank you very much, and I'll look forward to having a glass of wine with you.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
You.